I really want to focus today's topic on my empty nesters, okay? Empty nesters, have you really discovered what your purpose is post your child raising age, okay? And so this is a timely topic because I have a senior in high school who's about to graduate and go off to college. She'll be leaving in a few short months. And so, when I'm telling people I have when my daughter, my second child, is on her way out, a lot of times people will make the comment, oh, you're going to be an empty nester. What are you going to do at that time? What are you going to do with yourself? And honestly, I haven't really necessarily thought about it because I've been so busy living life and just enjoying life at every stage that it never necessarily occurred to me that, oh, wow, something's going to change. I'm going to have to adjust or do something different when I became an empty nester. I just figured I would literally move to that next stage. Now I don't have the responsibility of raising kids. I'll be able to maybe actually even do more. But I wanted to just walk you through a few tips, and I think I'll go through about 4 tips that if you are an empty nester and you're not quite sure, what am I going to do after that time? All of my time, energy, everything was poured into my kids, and so I've never really taken the time to really think about what life would look like after that. Then this is for you, because let me just tell you, while that is one of the most important jobs you will ever do, I say without apology that raising kids was without question, the most important thing that I've done in my life. But at the same time, I do realize that it's not the only thing that I was meant to do. It was a season. So here's some things that I want you to think about for those of you who are my empty nesters. If you are about to be an empty nester, or you are an empty nester, and you're really trying to figure out, what is this next stage going to look like for me? The number one thing that I would tell you is you really want to be prepared for that stage mentally. And what I mean by that is I can clearly remember when my kids were small, 1, 2 years old, in the back of my mind, I always said to myself, they're not going to always be this small. I am actually raising them so that they can go out and be, wonderful, godly, productive people in the earth. They're not going to always be this small. And so I would always say that to myself. And so in the back of my mind, I understood that I was raising young people to actually be adults and go out into the world. And so I didn't get stuck in wanting them to stay a certain age or anything like that because I knew that they had to grow. So you really want to ask yourself, am I prepared mentally for what it means, when my children eventually have to leave the house? That is the goal. Nobody really wants to have their kids hanging out in their basement. That's the running joke, right? You don't want them hanging out in your basement when they're 20, 30, 40 years old. And so in order to make sure that that isn't what happened, you really have to make sure that you come prepared mentally to let them go, let them walk, let them move into their purpose, right? And so if you have that in your mind mentally that, one day they are going to be out here in the world on their own, then like I said, it causes you to really think about what that's going to look like for you when they are gone. I think it really helps you to then focus in on, okay, what am I going to do once they're gone? Because, once they do leave the nest, obviously I'm going to have many, many more productive years. I hope that's how you're thinking about it. Many, many more productive years. I have this second half of my life, and now I get to go do something and use these skills for someone else. Okay, so prepare yourself mentally. Understand that while raising kids and having a family is without question one of the most important things that you will ever do in life, you weren't just put on the earth just to do that one thing. You do have multiple skills, gifts, and talents, and people need you, the world needs you, and so what does that look like once the kids have moved on? So step number 1, prepare mentally in the beginning so that you already have some thoughts in place when that time rolls around. Step number 2, okay? Now this is a big one because again, we all get stuck in this. We all have this issue. Are you overly busy? Okay, overly busy is every single second of your time literally just eaten up with activities, with things that you're doing, so that you really never have time to sit down and think and reflect on your own life. Okay, you really want to take some time to make sure that you're not overly busy, because again, we've all got in those cycles. Kids are in 2, 3 sports, 2, 3 clubs, then they have life groups, and you're going on vacation, or you're doing this, or you're doing that. And so if you're not careful, those 18 years will pass in a flash, and literally you would not have even thought about yourself during that entire time. There's so many stats out there that says that, for people who get so deeply involved in the lives of their children, when their children leave, they haven't actually worked on their relationship, like with their spouse. They haven't actually worked on their relationship with themselves. And so you can sometimes maybe fall into a little bit of a depression with what is life, right? And so you really do have to be very, very careful that you don't have your time so overly stuffed and packed and booked that you never really take the time to really think about who you are outside of all those activities. A lot of times, our self-worth is even tied into how many activities we can put our kids in, and how many accolades and achievements and accomplishments they can get. Okay, let's just be real. Sometimes that's all about us and wanting to feel good that we're doing, all of this great stuff for our kids. But again, at the end of the day, you deserve to take care of yourself as well, because outside of your kids, does nobody deserve the gifts that you have except your kids? Okay, that's the way I would put that. No, there are so many more people who could really benefit from that. So don't become so overly busy that the time literally flies and you don't have time to really even reflect on what you were put on this earth for. Because again, I guarantee you, it's more than just about the one thing. Okay, the next thing I would just say is, are you learning? Now, this was a big one for me, because in the beginning, I really just didn't understand that, you don't just stop your life, because you get married and have kids. I didn't understand that. I thought that that's what you were supposed to do. Literally just give up anything and everything that you were in order to pour into these people. But what I began to learn, again, this was a spiritual journey for me, is that you really are doing yourself a disservice. You're doing your family and your kids a disservice when you do that, because you teach them that that's what they're supposed to do, that they're supposed to give up, their lives, all their gifts, talents, and really just, give that all up for something else or someone else. Okay, and that's not what I think many of us want to teach our kids. And so you have to show them, I gave up books and reading and doing anything for myself for a season, and then it occurred to me that, hey, I can't give what I don't have. So if I stop learning, if I stop growing, if I'm no longer pursuing my dreams, then I'm really modeling something for my kids, and I don't want to do that. And so I immediately got back on that bandwagon and literally started devouring. I went and got 2 degrees, 2 master's degrees within the same 2-year period. I mean, I'm an avid reader. I'd given that up. I started doing that. I started reading documentaries and really just kind of growing my soul, so to speak. And so I would encourage you, if you found that you've given up learning and everything that you do is literally revolves around the things that you're doing in your family, then you may in fact be setting yourself up for a really stressful time, once that empty nest hits. And so make sure that you're always learning, you're always meeting new people. There's something new in your life that you can point to every single day if possible, but certainly every year you should be able to look back on your life and say, yep, I grew, I did something, I learned something, here's how I'm a better person, here's something that, here's an area that I expanded. You should always be able to say that. So are you learning? Because if you're not learning and you're just focusing all that time and energy, on, the me and my 4 and no more, then again, you may be setting yourself up for some potential problems as an empty nester. Okay, do you have real friends? Are you networking? Again, it's all about meeting new people and growing and expanding your network. So I would say that's number 4. After learning, then you definitely want to make sure you're meeting new people, because again, if your kids are your all in all, and it's me and my kids and me and my, like I said, my 4 and no more, then when that time comes and they're gone, then you're probably going to be down at campus every other weekend. And what you don't know is that they don't want you there. They're living their life, they're growing, they're starting to expand and stretch. And while they'll always love you, they do not want you down at campus every single weekend. And so you've got to figure that thing out and make sure that you have some real friends and that you're meeting new people, because those relationships are going to give you opportunities, again, to really start thinking about what is that next step for you. What is, what does a purposeful, meaningful life look like after this? Being able to help others and interact with others and get involved in different organizations and things of that nature. So this again was for my empty nesters. If you've given up that purpose because you thought that that's the way it had to be, let me just assure you that it does not have to be that way.